Well, thanks very much for inviting me, and I'm honored to be part of this conference. And congratulations to um, start this big conference. And I was really surprised and amazed, and all the speakers before me were great, and I learned a lot. And by the way, I love the journalism in handwriting in Korean and that kind of cool logo, and it has great journalism feeling in that handwriting. So, anyway, well, I'm not really articulate as Tim was, so translator will have much easier time to translate, hopefully. My name is Chang W. Lee. I'm staff photographer at the New York Times. I've been there about 23 years. And today, I probably will talk about more visual storytelling using new technologies. But I love to try new things like, GoPro and 360. Whenever new things comes out, new camera like a Sony A9, it's hot on the market. It takes 20 frames per second. It's really best pictures. A lot of great things around and happening. Challenge us to tell the better stories or better ways. But I'll probably talk about at the end too. But at the end of the day, we are here to tell the story and to tell the journalism. That's what it's about. Or this technology can help us, sometimes just illustrating the story, sometimes show the moments of the story, and a lot of different ways of telling the story. And we have more options now to tell these stories. So these are like a list and order about things I'll be going through, and I'll probably go back to the before and after, move a lot, but you can keep in mind that I'll just go through with this. The first story I chose to tell the story is the jockey series we did. I believe this was 2013, and this is when New York Times really started to tell the story in visual ways and different ways. And this was nominated and also was finalist for the Emmy Award for New Approaches for the Journalism Emmy Award. And I'll show you the story first, and we can talk about it. This is a story about Russell Bays, who has been riding horses for 35 years, and she competed about 6-7 times a day, every day, for 35 years. He ran more than 50,000 times, and he won more than 12,000 times in those races. So when I first got the assignment, it was like, wow, how do I tell the story? So it was like, I was thinking, he's just still doing the same thing over and over again. Get up and get ready, ride horse and come back. And he has done this for more than 50,000 times. But how do I tell the story and visually? There is a big difference using visuals to tell the story and versus tell the story visually. I don't want to use those pictures just to illustrate something that's happening, but visually I want to tell the story. So how do I do that? And I spent a lot of times. I went there 4 times, and each time was about 3-4 days, sometimes 5 days. But it was really challenging. So before I go further.
Then the door burst open, and Russell Bays, the winningest jockey in American history, yelled, "Yah!" as loud as he could.
And here it is, claiming invisible heat with a 16th left to go. Bays drives the favourite into the lead.
And one of the ideas we had was to show this as a first-person view. And the technology has been so small. The technology was able to make camera so small, and with the HD, it was first time we had a really 1080p quality HD camera, even with the GoPro, I believe. And they had a GoPro since 2002, but the quality has not been up to our standard. But by 2013, this small camera has a HD quality, and we were able to use that. And one of our graphic editors mentioned that the bullet HD camera, which is very small, tiny, that we can mount on his helmet. So, but to show just first-person view, that one camera was not enough. And we want to show how he raced and how, as he goes through what his thinkings and what his thoughts are, and how we illustrate and show in visual way. And we discussed we used 17 different cameras, including GoPros, and 5 of us, we shot 2 races. And we had a lot of pre-work to get the permission to use that HD camera on his helmet, which will, some people might object because he's using camera and that can change his weight and it can change the horse's performance as well. And if he falls somehow, it can hurt the other horses behind him too. So there was a lot of big question and safety issue that wasn't easy to get the permission to begin with. But we made sure it's safe enough, and we will secure the camera. And finally, we got the permission to do it. So then that's how we did it. But with all these gears, we'll see the video we did.
Then, he is an adrenaline addict, and horse racing satisfies the craving. You never lose the thrill of having that gate come open and the feeling of that horse surging up beneath you, he said.
Hold it!
Hang on, Todd.
When I go into the starting gate, the main thing is to have the horse relaxed but alert. I'm also looking at the starters loading the other horses so that I know approximately when that last horse goes in. I can reach up, grab my finger hold to mane, and as soon as I see that crack start to get a little wider, then I holler at the horse and away we go. In the race on Friday, I had a horse that had good speed. There was another horse that felt like he wanted to lead at the same time, so we kind of went ding-dong and head for a while. If they're a come from behind horse, you're going to be farther back in the group. And then you also have to keep in mind whether they like to be inside, or a lot of things you have to take into consideration as you're getting ready to go into that first turn, but you also want to be in a position so that you're not going to go real wide into the turn and lose a lot of ground. When you're in the backstretch, you're managing the output of your horse. You can feel through your hands how they're moving over the ground. If you're going to have to move through the pack, you've got to see not just the hole in front of you, but you've got to see what you're going to do after you get through that hole. In this particular instance, I was just kind of surrounded by horses that weren't going anywhere, and I kind of had to let them get clear of me a little bit, and then I was able to drop in and kind of slingshot through on the inside of them. When you're coming around that second turn, you've been paying attention to what the other riders are doing, how much horse they've used. You want to have your horse in a position at that point that if you have some horse left, you're going to be able to let him run and hopefully win the race.
So this story has 8 pages and a lot more videos and pictures, the interactive stuff. But because we don't have much time, you guys can search and go see yourself probably later. But this story we planned like literally how we want to show this and which camera we'll use it and which angle, and we planned it, and we will spend a lot of time just getting ready, and because the race was short and we had to work between the races, so we didn't have much time to go around set everything up. So we set everything up in the morning. And then each time there was between races, we go there, check one camera, and go the other and check the other cameras, and it was a lot of work. But at the end, it was great. I think it worked out great. The other story that I mentioned is Columbia River project we did. Sorry. There you go. Nowadays, a lot of people are using drone, and I see sometimes when I see Korean TV news. When I see the Korean news, they use a lot of drones too, and it's becoming very popular and a different way of storytelling. But in order to use this, we have to go through a lot of legal problems too, and to locate that, we did story about we rode on one of those tugboats and rode all the way down through the river with the people in the tugboat, and to go through all those power stories and a lot of dams on that river. We spent like 2 days riding those tugboat with it. So one of the idea to show that story was to take pictures and take videos of the tugboat running through the river. But when I was in the tugboat, I cannot fly myself because it has a lot of magnetic disturbances. So I had to come out and try to use different boats to take the drone shots. But I spent a lot of time. I have to locate the tugboat, so I use the app. It's called Find the Ship, and it literally shows where all the ships are. And I also contacted the company and where they are about, but they don't know exact location. So I use this app to exactly locate where they are and wait for them to take these pictures. And these are all the, we use a lot of graphics. And this is the captain of the tugboat going through one of the dams. And to show the timeliness of it, we also, one of the things we did was the time-lapse video. I took pictures of the entire, not entire, but most of the part of the boat ride through GoPro, and we selected these parts and showing the tugboat going through the dam. There's another drone shot we did. What's and a lot of people are asking about the 360, and they have a lot of people want to try it, and I was very curious too, so I tried myself with 360 virtual reality thing. And this, if you go to the YouTube and search my name and New York Times and 360, it shows about there are about 8 stories I did, and one of them was this fishing market. But
At 4 a.m.,
I'll go through first.
the first fishing boats have already begun to unload their fresh catch onto the docks of Busan's cooperative fish market, ready to be auctioned and delivered to the fishing stalls of the Jigalchi Fish Market on the edge of Nampo Port, Busan.
알마야 11마 일마야 1만원에 53번 하예야 10양마예야 아양마예야 10양마 양마예 하예야 11마야 예 1만원 제어제.
At 5 a.m., hundreds of fishermen and professional fish buyers line across the nearly 1.8 million square feet of the cooperative fish market auction, one of the largest in South Korea and East Asia, host to more than 30% of the country's fish production.
하예야 제발야 제발 제발야 제발 제발 제발야 제발야 제발
건강무도 하시면 안 되나?
이 맛있는 거는 맛있는 거예요.
명함을 드릴 테니까 작업을 하고 하는 겁니다. 이거 몇 마리였는데? 몇 마리? 아니, 한 마리 더 주고 한 마리.
After the auction, the fish are loaded and delivered throughout the city and country. As well as the nearby Jigalchi market, where they join the stalls and fish tanks waiting to be chosen by eager seafood lovers.
너무 맛있지?
With these days with the new technologies, as a photographer, I'm thinking about a lot of different things, like especially the space of the concept of a rectangular, the perception of the space. When I take pictures with the still pictures, it's the moment is defined within the rectangular. When I use the video, the subject and something can come into the frame of a rectangular and it can go out of the rectangular. There's more space concept and perception with the video. And with the video, you can move your camera angles too. And with 360, now it expands to all of your surroundings. But one thing, when I was shooting 360, one thing I was very uncomfortable with was when I take 360 videos or pictures, I personally cannot be in the picture. So I have to hide to somewhere else that I cannot be seen in the footage. So it's kind of I leave it there and I disappear and let it run and just waiting for something to happen. And it's not like that I go there, I witness the moment and I take pictures. And when I'm present at the scene, the subject will let me know whether if they don't want to be in the picture, they will let me know physically. They will cover the face, or they say don't take my picture, or somebody will just scream and yell at me. But there's always communication between myself and subject, and even with video that's possible too. But also even video now, the camera is becoming very small, and I use it like a lot of times too. But sometimes I place it where people they don't know where it is. And especially with the 360 camera, with this one, I cannot be there. I just leave it there and capturing the moments is not it's very different way about capturing the stories and telling the story. So I think there is a proper, it can be really good tools for certain things to give our users the experience of being there. But to tell the story in traditional journalism way, there is also the ethical question that we need to ask whether this is the proper tool and right way to tell the story. And it's a question we need to ask like every time.
너무 맛있지?
Sorry. There you go. And one of the interesting with 360 is, we want to use 360 camera because it can shows the all surrounding. You can bring the readers into the scene where it's happening. But where people are looking when they are looking at the 360 and virtual reality, I have this heat map shows where people are actually looking at while they are watching 360 video. This is one of the first story I did. I'm sorry. It's a New York Times printing facility at the College Point. And if you see the red one, that's where people are looking at. And we are doing story because we want to show the surroundings, but people were not ready. Actually, they were not turning around. Very little, on the other side of the story, there are some people went to the other side, the other side of the camera, but most people just stay there and looking at one place. They moved a little bit around, but not much. So we want to do 360 in virtual reality to show all the surroundings in different ways. But a lot of times, the moments on the other side of the story is missing. So people, unless you go there and go to the same story over and over again, watch several times, it's very easy to miss that what you want to show to them. People, The college point was about March this year, and people were not really used to it. But this is in May, at the end of May. As you can see, people learn how to watch the 360 cameras, and you can see those even red spots are expanding, and there are a lot more greens, and people are looking on all other different places. So people will probably learn soon that there's how to watch 360, but in reality, it's still a long way to go. And look, this is expanding a lot, so people are, they start to really looking around a little more. But it's a really big different experience when you actually look at the 360 stories on a computer screen and a mobile phone, or using virtual reality screens. And when I first shot the college point, and when I first looked at put on the virtual reality goggle, and I was like, wow, I felt like I was riding roller coaster, and it was great feeling too. But a lot of times people don't use that goggle to look at the stories, so there is very limited access to the readers using this virtual reality. And another things as a photographer, I need to think about is, with the new technology, this one takes 20 frames per second pictures, and there's a camera that has 60 frames per second, which is faster than taking more frames than video. So the decisive moments as a photographer that we take captures to tell the story is not as like it's like taking video and use a frame grab, and there's no boundary and no definition between that video and photo, and how we capture those moments can be very different and very different approaches. So this is this is not video, it was just straight 20 frames per second shots, and to just show the sequence of it, that's how we used it. But it can be easily taking video and use the frame grab. And at the US Open this year, one wire agency was using that technology. He was shooting 60 frames per second to capture moment and choose one frame and to use as a picture. And that's how we are facing how we are using these technologies, and it will change how we shoot and how we perceive our subject. And one thing we need to think about is what it means using new technology for visual storytelling. And a lot of time when we approach a subject, if you see with your eyes, it's too late. The moment is gone, and you want to see before it happens, and you plan things. And I also do some sports coverages too. And good thing about sports and what I learned a lot from sports is you can think and plan ahead. I learned how to think about what's going to happen and how I want to capture those things. But the danger of is if you think about what you want to get, that can limit what you are thinking, and you're gonna miss what's gonna happen. And the story of Russell Bayes, as I mentioned in the earlier, I really struggled a lot about. I had great pictures and visuals and from beautiful shots, but how can I tell the story? of a man who spent 35 years doing the same thing over and over again, more than 50,000 times. And I was getting nervous towards the end. I didn't feel like I had that picture, that one picture that defines his story. So one day, this was the day before, was my last trip, and I only had one more day to spend the time with him. And that morning, somehow the horse he was waiting for and he supposed to ride for the practice didn't come and was late. So while we were waiting, he went to this horse and hugged the horse and said, "How could you not love this?" And then I took this picture, just a couple of frames, but I knew then it wasn't a story about horse racing. The story was a love story between him and the horse. And this one picture, I think, says it all. 35 years he spent, it was a love story, it wasn't the horse racing story. And again, this was the ethical questions, where is the camera? And I really didn't feel comfortable about placing this camera there. But some people may have known there was camera, but a lot of people, it was small and inside this thing. And people probably were not aware about what's going on. So it's a lot of questions we need to ask about. And the power of citizen journalism and social media. If a Tiananmen Square protest happened today, could the Chinese government have been toppled? If you think about the power of social media and the power of the phone and the social media you can use, instead of pointing your camera and taking selfie, if you turn around the camera and documents what's going on around you and you share, his story is his story. Nowadays, with a lot of feminism being talked about and advanced, her story can be his story. And now with all social media and smartphone, my story can be his story. And that's the power you have, and people are aware about what they can do with it. And all the platform we have from yesterday at the neighbor, and also story funding, there's a lot of tools that you can tell your story that can become part of the history. And at the end of the day, the best camera is the camera you have. With all this technology, sometimes you don't have it with you. So when I went there, I didn't know they had a pool, and I wanted to have the pool, him shooting, like posing inside under the pool, but I didn't have a waterproof camera. But I had my iPhone, which is waterproof. So luckily, I had a great shot under the water. And again, it's in the beginning, as I said in the beginning, with all these technologies, we can use these technologies to illustrate all different things. But we are here to tell the story, and visually telling the story is my job. And technology really is only a tool that helps us to tell those visual stories. Thank you. Sorry, I was a little nervous.
네, 시간을 정확하게 맞춰주셨는데 강연 잘 들었습니다. 신기술을 활용한 비주얼 스토리텔링이라는 주제에 맞게 과연 새로운 기술이 비주얼 스토리텔링에 도입이 된다는 건 어떤 의미를 갖는지, 그리고 그로 인해서 우리들이 어떻게 이제까지 보지 못하던 것들을 보고 있는지까지를 알아볼 수 있는 아주 유익한 시간이었습니다. 역시 질문을 받았는데요. 한 분이 세 가지의 질문을 해주셨는데 이 중에 두 가지가 좋은 것 같아서 저희가 드려볼게요. 스토리텔링 사례를 잘 봤습니다. 그런데 이 과정에서 취재 기자와 기획자의 협업은 어떻게 이루어집니까? 이 프로젝트를 지휘하는 사람은 일반적인 취재 기자입니까? 아니면 멀티미디어 담당자입니까?
일단 we discussed the story and the direction of how we would like to do before we actually go there. Many times, especially for big projects, a lot of people are involved. We have a graphic editors, picture editors, and story editors, and writer, and myself, and there are page editors. There are a lot of 6 to 8 editors, and myself and reporters sometimes get together and discuss what the story is about and how we would like to tell the story visually, visual storytelling. So there is not, there is a, usually story editor is probably has a final say and decide, but so the editors of the stories who's going to decide what to do. But we also always discuss, and they are very open to taking ideas and to try new different things. And also the second one is
두 번째는 뉴욕타임스의 사진 기자는 그러면 비주얼 스토리텔링을 잘하기 위해서는 일반적인 카메라 사진 이외에 360도 영상, 또 드론 등 새로운 장비를 익혀야 됩니까? 이거 말고도 익혀야 되는 장비들이 있으면 말씀해 주시면 되겠습니다.
Well, there is no rules. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. I just happen to be. I just love trying new things, and not many people do drone. There are only 2 of us doing drone at the New York Times, John Shaner and myself, and I'm probably. I mean, they do. There are a lot of people who does 360 once in a while. It's not really difficult to learn. It's what you need to think about is how you want to use it and where you want to place the camera and those things. And my job is taking pictures is like only one third of my job. It's something I love to do. I like to do, but a lot of times my job is to get things done when everyone said you cannot do it. And go there, be there in time when people said, or there's broken, the bridge is broken, you cannot cross. When there's impossible, I have to make it possible. That's a lot part of my job. So, but I mean, drone and 360, it's optional. If you would like to do it, you can do it, but they are not forcing you to do anything.